What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and I want to thank you for joining me for another Silmarillion Total War video. I myself am one of the lead developers behind Silmarillion Total War, and if you're just joining us for the first time, Silmarillion Total War is a mod for Medieval 2 that seeks to bring the mighty events and personalities of the First Age of Middle-earth to life in the Total War engine. And the best engine we could think of to do that with is Medieval 2, bar none. So today I'm going to be talking to you about something that has sort of been covered in some detail on UMAD Commander's channel. He recently released, and by recently I mean today, Saturday the 23rd, released a video that kind of deep dives into the Phallus faction, what they're good at, what their roster looks like, what their bonuses are, and things like that, just to help you better understand that faction as a whole. And he also briefly touched upon the legendary company system that we'll be implementing into the mod. And in fact, we already have implemented. We've already got 2 legendary companies on the build as a bit of a proof of concept. And for those of you that are familiar with Warhammer 2, honestly, I'm straight up just crimping CA style. They're regiments of renown, but I do have a fairly specific bent on them because I don't want them to just simply be upgrades of units that already exist within the faction. The intent isn't to just make another lower tier bodyguard unit. It's to add some additional functionality and to open up some extra builds and things like that, and have advantages but also downsides to playing with these units. Even if that downside is as simple as price or a reduction in unit size. There are reasons to bring them, but there are also reasons not to bring them, and they're not going to fit into every single build. So that's the intent there, is that they're not going to be a one-size-fits-all must-have unit. Just because they have legendary in the name doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be like some 2 HP, two-handed, armor-piercing, that kind of thing, because that gets pretty boring really quickly, and a lot of units end up just kind of being copies of each other. They just end up being another bodyguard unit, which is, they're not intended to supersede the existing bodyguard units, and again, not intended to replace units that already exist within the roster. They're just simply there as a nice, fun, flavorful supplement that can open up some different builds. And you're going to see one of those builds today, as I do have a replay that's going to show off both of our legendary companies. I'm probably going to call them Regiments of Renown at some point. I might have to just give up entirely and start calling them that. But our working name for them currently is Legendary Companies, because we don't want to be too blatant about the fact that we're basically plagiarizing the idea from Creative Assembly. But in any case, I digress. That's a little blurb about the legendary companies and how they will function moving forward. And I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but this isn't going to be a multiplayer-only gimmick either. You will see these things in campaign, and you're going to see even more of them in campaign, as not all of them will make it into multiplayer, as they might not be suitable, or the concept might be kind of overpowering for a faction in multiplayer. But you will definitely see them in single player for sure, and I've got at least 2 or 3 more of them already on the way. One of them has been made already by Send the Dark Cloud, and another one I've got another 2 or 3 of them kind of in my head, but it won't take me very long to work with. But anyways, I'm getting long-winded here. So the first one I'm going to show you today is one that nobody has seen before, and that is the Accursed of Alqualonde. Now, they are essentially, I don't want to say an upgraded version of the Defenders of Aglon, because they are not necessarily a straight upgrade, but they are better in certain ways, but weaker in others. So first of all, they have 13 armor. The base armor value for Defenders of Aglon, as you can see, is 11. Their morale is also a little bit higher, but their melee skill is a little bit lower, and the 2 might not seem like much. But 10 melee skill on the Accursed of Alqualonde, it's pretty easy for a lot of armor-piercing units to get up as high as well over 10 damage. It's really quite simple. So they are very much in danger against armor-piercing units. Armor-piercing units are absolutely their bane, and even cheaper units can do very well against them, and indeed wipe them out. So for example, the Accursed of Alqualonde will lose in a straight fight to what are they called? Warriors of Region, the 2-handed axe unit from Doriath, because they have such high damage and such high armor piercing that the Accursed of Alqualonde just can't kill them fast enough. Even though their stats are a good deal higher, it's the AP that really makes the difference there. So you can kind of see what this unit is good at and what it's kind of weak against. The other mitigating factor for all of the really nice traits that I will list off is the price. They are very, very expensive. I think they're probably the most expensive non-2 HP infantry unit currently in the game. So 1150 is a big price tag. But what you get for that is a higher base armor value. So they've got 13 armor, which is very, very high. That is almost the highest armor value we have in the game. They also have the 10 skill, which is decent. It will help them out against most units except like really high damage two-handed axe and mace and other two-handed units as well. Even against other like non-armor piercing two-handed units, they can do pretty well for themselves. But in addition, they also have a passive shield value, and I will be distinguishing a missile deflection value, just simply the skill of these very elite warriors, allowing them to deflect incoming projectiles with their weapons. I know, it's crazy, but it's the first stage, and this is high fantasy, so we're allowed to do things like that. They also have increased morale, similar speed, and they have a minor inspire ability, so they will give +2 morale in a 25-meter radius around them to nearby friendly units. I'm fairly certain that only applies to units that are controlled by you, not necessarily units from your allies, and not necessarily units from your allies who are also the same faction as you. I'm pretty sure that it applies exclusively to units that you control. I could be wrong, though. If someone out there knows better and can like demonstrably prove that to me, I'm all ears. But in any case, they also have some other nice things as well. They cause fear, being among the first of the elves to spill the blood of their kindred. They are feared and reviled in their community by Noldo and Cinda alike. But it does cause fear in the hearts of their enemies and anybody who crosses blades with these elite warriors. They also have a bonus when fighting in scrub terrain of +2, and they get a combat bonus in deserts. You may be wondering why deserts. It's a little bit cheeky. So the Philothrim faction all get bonuses in the deserts, and the Philothrim are kin of the Teleri, who the Accursed of Alqualonde massacred at the first kinslaying in Alqualonde. So it's a little cheeky there, but it's also kind of nice for them, especially if they come up against the Teleri. They've got like the most like very clear Teleri successor faction. They've got experience there, and they'll be pretty damn good at it. They also have some other things that you can't see in the unit card, and the most important one is that they cannot be stunned in combat. So unlike their Defender of Aglon counterparts, these guys can take hits and keep coming, and they cannot be stun locked, so they are always trucking through enemies. So they're very, very, very good. They are extremely expensive, however. But the purpose of this unit is, and why I wanted to add it to Feanor first and foremost, is that Feanor is one of the first factions that I made. In fact, I think it was the very first faction that I completed the roster for in its entirety. And a lot of other factions have come into the game so far. We've got about 8 of them on the build, 9 of them almost completely finished. And then we've only got 2 more to go after that. We've got the Dwarves and the Elves of Gauntlet. And there's a lot of things that have been added into the game. A lot of pole arms, a lot of cool mechanics, a lot of like really powerful combinations from subsequent factions as I get kind of better at the process of like figuring out what works, what's cool, what's effective. So the Sons of Feanor did kind of need something a little bit, and their cavalry is already top tier fantastic. They've got the single best cavalry unit in the game in the form of the Roqueni Magloro, but what they were starting to fall behind in a little teensy bit is the infantry fight. So this is going to give them some extra options in terms of the infantry fight, but it does necessitate you to take some cheaper units for your front line, which is exactly what you're going to see in the replay. But yeah, the Kinslayers of Alqualonde, it's a damn cool unit card, and the model itself is really, really awesome, and you're going to get to see it in just a little bit. And the next see, there we go. I was going to call them the Regiment of Renown. The next legendary company is the Mariners of Earendil, or Earendil, for the lore nerds out there who will crucify me if I don't say that properly. They are essentially a alternate version of the Warriors of Eglarest. Now, their morale is a little bit better. They've also got, I believe, they've got 1 less melee skill. So they're not quite as powerful with their melee skill stat, but they have extra armor and 1 extra armor over the Warriors of Eglarest. I believe they've also got a little bit of extra damage there as well, so they've a little bit more offensive, and their melee skill is a little bit lower as a result. They've also got a passive +2 inspirability in 100 meters. They are fantastic at mixing in with your mid tiers, and the purpose of this unit was again to fill a gap in the Philothrum roster in an interesting and unique way. So one of the things the Philothrum have is a lot of mid tier units. In fact, units like the Marines of Brathambar, for example, they can take up to 4 of, which is pretty exceptional, especially for the Elves. So the Elves of the Phallus can field a lot of numbers, but a lot of their units are not exactly amazing. So you've only got a low 7 attack value on these guys. And the Spears of Brathambar have 4 attack value. So their spears are a little bit stronger on average than you expect from a spear of their tier and their price. But they can really only bring 2 units of the Warriors of Eglarest, and they have no shock infantry. And the units that they do have have fairly decent attack values for being a bodyguard tier unit and a really elite unit, but they don't really have any like true powerhouse units that are really scary the way that other factions do. So it made sense to me to add another mid-tier option that could be useful using alongside the mid-tiers that are so common in the Philothrum faction. And the Mariners of Eärendil fit right into that. And as Eärendil was involved in the War of Wrath and slew a whole bunch of dragons in his boat Vingelot, which he flew through the air and blew up a dragon who was literally the size of a mountain range. They also have a bonus versus elephants. So they get a +2 bonus versus elephants, which is particularly useful since none of the other units in the Philothrum roster get that. Normally, 2-handers will have the Monster Hunter trait, which gives them +2 against elephants. But as we know, they don't have any shock infantry, so they don't get that bonus. So this does kind of fill that gap a little bit, and helps them in a way I think that is consistent with the overall theme of the Philothrum. But yeah, so that's the 2 that we have in the game so far. But I think you guys probably want to see them on the field of battle, don't you? So let's go ahead and jump into that replay. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you're excited for this new system. If you guys have comments, criticisms, you just want to yell at me for stealing an idea from Creative Assembly, essentially, please do so down in the comment section, but try to do it as respectfully as possible. I am, after all, just a regular human being, and I do this on my free time, so it's not perfect. In any case, let's jump into the replay. And here we are. So let's talk a little bit about this map first, as this is a map that you have not seen before, but will be available once this patch goes live onto our open alpha. This is the War-Torn Plains. Now, I've not really made it a secret that I don't like the Grassy Plains map. I think that there's a hell of a lot more to offer than just a flat map with no terrain bonuses, no features. So what I wanted to do is remix the Grassy Plains map in a way that suited me, and I think suits the overarching philosophy that has gone into the creation of Silmarillion Total War. A lot of units have terrain bonuses, and for a lot of units that's a big part of their identity. So the units here, for example, the Stalkers of Thargelion, have bonuses in 2 different terrain types. I think one is Scrub, I could be wrong, or they could be just they have the one. I can't remember, there's too much. But they definitely have a bonus in Forests. And on a straight open field map, they're alright. You can upgrade them to have like 8 damage or something, which is decent. They're also armor piercing, but against a lot of Elven infantry, they are going to fall flat. They're mostly good at trading efficiently with Orc units, and they're pretty cheap too. I think they only cost about 450 or 485 or so florins to take with you. But when you put them into a forest, then they get an extra 2, and that's going to bump their damage up to 10, which is formidable indeed. For example, the Footmen of Amras have 9 damage, and of course these guys are armor piercing in addition too. So there are rewards for using these units in terrain that is favorable to them and not so favorable to your allies. So there's a lot of things like polearms, for example, and cavalry. Most cavalry that isn't Sylvan Elf cavalry takes a penalty in the woods, as do all polearm units, halberds, etc., etc. So terrain, basically what I'm trying to say is that terrain is really important. So I wanted to take Grassy Plains, remake that in a way that made sense to me and to the mod, but also try and keep keep to the spirit of it, because I know a lot of people do like grassy plains, and I don't want to necessarily force my preferences onto people entirely, but at the same time, I can't just have a map in the game that doesn't make sense with everything that I'm trying to do, that people insist on playing on, especially on our testing, on our testing builds. Like, we needed an alternative, and so this is our alternative. In the center here, you're going to find a camp surrounded by a ring of trees, and you can hide units in these trees. And I find that on larger games like this, it's very, very exciting, because people will hide units in here. The whole team has access, both teams have access to this forest, and so you're going to be fighting what seems like a never-ending stream of units that come out of nowhere, and it really keeps you on your toes, and it's really, really exciting. In the center, there's a little bit of terrain. You can see a bunch of different areas here that are useful for hiding archers behind or for forming natural choke points. This side's a little bit more choke pointy and a little bit more closed in. This side is far more open indeed, and it's got easy access to the forest and easy access to points that can help circumnavigate the choke points of the opposite team. And then right here in the center, got yourself a big hill, and this hill is covered in scrub terrain, whereas everything else out and around here, I think, is just regular old dirt and mud and doesn't really particularly carry any particular bonuses one way or the other. 1 second. Ha! I always forget to turn off my Discord. It's terribly embarrassing. In any case, so yeah, this is the central part of the map. And then on the outside here, it is very, very wide open. There's a lot of movement for cavalry play, and it does extend quite far away from the tree line here. So there's lots of room for you to get around things. There's lots of trees in here, like little sparse copses of trees that you can hide units in and surprise people. And then out here, we've got a sandy area. So this is going to activate the sand bonuses. So for the Phallus, for the Orcs of Angband as well, for example, and for any other units, the Easterlings, for example, do get bonuses in sandy terrain. Certain units of them do. And others get bonus in scrub terrain. So there's a lot here. And there's this little fortification area. You can actually walk through these. It just looks cool, and that's kind of what I wanted. So this area is actually quite wide open, with the exception of this one building right here, which is kind of scary, kind of creepy looking, very ominous, with those gibbets there. This area you can't walk through, so it does kind of break it up in the center here a little bit, and force people to go around and, interact with each other and fight over those points. And then over in here, you got a few minor hills. Nothing massive. Yeah, can't actually hide anything in here. I think there's this is like scrub terrain up on here as well, so you'll get certain bonuses activated when you're fighting up on these hills. But altogether, it's a really interesting map, and even people who were die-hard fans of the grassy plains and who really hated the idea of me changing it in any way, they jived with this map almost immediately. So I think that this is probably one of our coolest competitive maps moving forward. There's a ton of terrain bonuses. There's a ton of potential for play and counterplay in the center, and then of course everything outside of that tree ring is nice and open. You can see that this extends really, really far away from that tree line, even longer than it does on the other side. So you still get that traditional grassy plains play, but it is a little bit more, I guess, congruent with Silmarillion Total War. So that's cool. Let's talk about the units now, because I'm sure you guys really want to see the legendary companies, and I'm kind of dragging it out a little bit just to torment you and to build excitement somewhat. So this is my House of Feanor army. I have gone for 2 units of Defenders of Aglon. I've got 2 units of Riders of the Past, 3 units of Shield Bearers of Hellevorn, which are a mid-tier spear unit, and all of this is to kind of be a little bit on the cheap side so that I can bring lots of my high-tier infantry as the core of my army. I've also got 3 units of the Stalkers of Thargelion, Otorn Maitimo, which are the bodyguard of Maedhros himself, and yes, I did say this unit for last, just to pick on you a little bit more. These are the Accursed of Alqual Londe, and I think they are probably one of the weirdest, most high fantasy models that I've ever made, and I'm really, really, really happy with them. I like the jewels on their crest there. See if we can get a really good look at it. They've got the jewels on their chest as well. They've got some extra armor plating to kind of represent the fact that they are more heavily armored than your average defender of Aglon. And they've got some cloth and things like that, and they just look really, really scary, really, really element, and super heavily armored, which makes sense with the Sons of Feanor. And I believe, in addition to all of this stuff, I've also got Requendi Magloro. I guess it wasn't the last unit. Ah, damn. Damn, I played myself. I've got 2 units here with the Mounted Company of Calicorn. In addition to, they are Lancers, good against Wargs, and Infantry. And then, of course, my Knights, if you don't already know. Knights are good at pretty well everything. They're just really expensive, and there aren't very many of them. And I won't go into too much detail about these units, because I'm going to let Scouts of Entertainment do that. So I'll just briefly go over kind of what this faction is and what some of the units are capable of. So here we have the Salamandrian Guard. This is the new Easterlings faction, and these guys are part of the tribe of Boar. There's going to be a big split down the middle between the faithful Easterlings and the Easterlings who turned traitor at the Battle of the Nyath Nodiad. But again, Scouts of Entertainment will go into all the lore and the details and stuff. But needless to say, Salamandrian Guard are really, really versatile. They're heavy cavalry, they've got the Monster Hunter trait, they're fantastic monster hunters, and they've got a special projectile that lowers the morale of units that they hit. Over here we have the Ravagers of Himring. They are a Phallus unit, and they have a really deadly charge bonus, but they're super, super fragile, and they're also locked morale, so they make an excellent tar pit. Over here we have a frontline unit for the tribe of Boar, and their alphas are a little bit messed up, which is why their masks are glowing white around the nose and the slits in the helmet for the eye. So that will be fixed. I am aware that it's an issue. These are the Warband Lothlan, and one of the only... Actually, it's the only mid-tier unit that the Tribe of Boar has. The Tribe of Boar really consists of most of the high-tier units, like the Clan Guard of Lothlan, who are scimitar units, so they're very high on melee defense. Got the Sons of Ulfang bodyguard unit. They are an AP Falx unit. Got Marauders of Himring, who are an axe-armed unit that have a couple of throwing axes that they throw before getting stuck in. I've also got Clan Guard. Was it the Clan Guard? No, with the Halberds of Lothlan. They're hiding in there too. Can't see to find them. There they are, the Halberdiers of Lothlan. You can see the mixed front line here of Clan Guard and Halberdiers. Got some Marauders of Himring there, some more Ravagers, and then we've got some light throwing axe units here. Eastron Marauders, 3 units of them. And then we've got the Chieftain's Vanguard, which are a Boar unit. And yes, I am aware that that is the Camul's chosen model with some additions to it and a color change. I really like the Camul's chosen model, and I thought that this would look really, really good. And I wanted to give the Boar Easterlings a similar look, but largely different. Like these ones, they have like the same helmets and stuff, and like some of the same like leg armor, but largely they are very different from the Easterlings in the Third Age. These guys, I wanted to have them be a little bit closer, just because I wanted A, the Tribe of Boar to be very heavily armored, and B, I kind of have this headcanon that after the Ulfang Easterlings betray the Easterlings of Boar and slaughter the men and assimilate the women and children into their tribe, that they later go to the area around the Sea of Rune that becomes known just as Rune, and they kind of usurp the style and eventually the identity of these mighty chieftains of men, and sort of become them, but like shadowy reflections of them later on, which I think is kind of cool. You don't have to like that and you don't have to agree with it, but that's just my little personal headcanon. And there we go. That's Easterling's army there. I think he may have some other units hiding about in here. Yes, he does. He got some Ravagers of Himring. Oh, the flags here, I guess, are helpful in this way. Warband of Lothlan, Ravagers, and some more Salamandrian Guard. Let's move on now to the third army here. This is the House of Finarfin, who I'm sure you've seen many times at this point. They're being played by Secretariat, one of the other lead developers on Third Age Total War. Silmarillion Total War. He's brought some Marksmen of Nargothrond. He's got one Hidden Swordsman of Talath Durin here, and a Detachment Swordsman of Talath Durin. And it's important to note, as I don't think many people know the distinction between these two units, other than the size, obviously. The large, normal-sized Swordsmen of Talath Durin do not have an armor-piercing projectile, whereas the detachment units do. And that is because there are very, 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 and I cannot stress this enough, few sources of armor piercing for the House of Finarfin. The only other unit I can think of that has armor piercing are these guys right here, the Wardens of Nargothrond. They're the only AP Spear unit in the game, and consequently one of 2 sources for armor piercing for the House of Finarfin. He's brought some archers here of Talath Durin, which are a medium tier, just kind of bog standard line archer unit. They've got good numbers, pretty decent accuracy and an armor value of 6, which will hold up against fairly well against most units. But of course they are still vulnerable being unshielded. Got some bridge wards of Nargothrond here. I believe there are 2 companies of them. These are the only pike unit in the game currently, and I think at most you're going to see 2 more. 1 for the dwarves and 1 for Gondolin, just to shake it up for a little bit. But currently they're the only pike in the game, and so no faction can match them in that regard. Defenders of Talathir in here, just medium spears. They look neat. They look like the other Talathir units. And they're super useful for bringing in numbers to form a front line, help screen cavalry, help support your allies, and spears are just super useful in general in Silmarillion, although they're not very highly damaging. That being said, the Wardens of Nargothrond with their armor piercing can actually get a lot of damage done. Now the unit of Marksmen of Nargothrond here, and a little note on their projectile actually. I increased the spread of it, so it's not just 3 units hitting the same target, it's more of a, if you're familiar with Warhammer 2, yeah, I think the high elves are only in 2. Think a little bit more Reaper Bolt Thrower, though not quite so dramatic in the amount of projectiles it spits. It's only 3 per person, but they do spread out a heck of a lot more. I've also got some Scouts of Taud and Faurath here, which are a 2-handed spear/archer unit with poison arrows. More Swordsmen of Talathir hidden in the tree line. Our Quini Morn Megilwa, which I believe is the general today. Yes, indeed it is. You can see Turin in his armor using the dwarf helm that he found in Nargothrond. A note on him is that we actually do have, I think it was just finished actually. There was a model finished for the proper dragon helm of Dorlomin, and you're going to see that on Fingolfin's, or one of the Fingolfin bodyguards. It's the bodyguard within the Fingolfin faction that is going to represent Hurin and his personal retinue. So they're going to have the dragon helm of Dorlomin in there, which is cool. But the Arquini Mor Megilwa, hard-hitting, they cannot be stunned as well, so this is one of the very, very few truly offensive units that the House of Finarfin can field, and of course they don't have the, they can't be stunned, as I think I mentioned already, so super scary for these guys. They can just keep on trucking melee. They're 2 HP, their armor is a little bit lower than the other bodyguard, the Sartor Findorato, but they are a really, really strong unit nonetheless. Move on now to the 4th and final member of our team. We have another Easterling army, and we've got some Warband of Lothlan here. Salamandrine Guard, because they are just lovely. I think there's 2 units of Salamandrine Guard there. 3 more units of the Wardens of Lothlan. Halberdiers of Lothlan. Wardens of Lothlan. This is the spear unit here. Very, very nice. I kind of think that they look a little bit more like, almost like Rajput soldiers, like a mix between like Mughal soldiers and the Easterlings of the Third Age, which I think is pretty neat. We've got some Clan Guard of Lothlan here as well, and then some light supporting units from the Old Fang tribe, 3 units there of the Eastron Marauders. And then he's got the Chieftain's Vanguard here as well. And maybe 1 more unit hidden in the trees. So he's got 2 actually Eastron Horsemen here, which is the lower tier option for the Horse Archers. They kind of exemplify, I think the Salamandrine Guard and the Eastron Horsemen really exemplify the differences between the 2 tribes. These guys are much more damage focused, with their missiles at least, but they are super lightly armored, and they fall apart in the face of missile fire, but they are quite numerous, much more numerous than I think any other non-Warg cavalry unit currently in the game, which is definitely saying something. That's a lot of volume of fire, and they do a crap ton of damage as well, far above what you'd expect from their tier. So that's going to do it for our team. Let's go ahead and see what our opponents are bringing to the battle today. Directly across from Eclipse's Easterling army, we have the Elves of Osiliand, who are fast becoming a favorite, because damn are they engaging to play with and against, and yeah, they're just a really cool faction, which I think has come together really nicely. And they're being commanded by Artorius. He's got some Mython and Tolgalen, 2 units of them. These are a bodyguard unit with maces, and of course they are armor piercing. They are probably the closest thing to like a truly heavy infantry unit that the Elves of Osirian can field, and they are extremely expensive. In addition to, they're nearly as expensive, I think, as the Accursed of Alcolonde. We've got a couple units of Spear Host of Rathloriel here. Orphan and Tower as well. These are nobles of the forest, and they are 2-handed axemen Very, very, very scary and surprisingly versatile. You're going to see cavalry and monsters fleeing before the advance of these units, which is not something you often see from non-spear infantry units, and that's because their charge hits so hard that they can trade with cavalry and come out on top and inflict serious, serious damage to single entity or low entity units like knights and uruloki and other things like that. So they're a very nasty unit. He's got some hidden units here as well. I think he's got 2 companies of Outriders of Dweilwyn, if memory serves. He's also got 2 units of the Horse Archers of Gelion. I can't remember their name exactly. He's got some Scouts of Gelion, which is the dedicated foot archer unit for Assyriand. There's also a bunch of Hunters of Rathloriel, which are a javelin unit with armor-piercing javelins. And he's got some Skirmishers of Rathloriel as well, who are like a dual-wielding sword unit. So they've got lots of armor-piercing. They've got lots of melee skill, and they've got pretty decent damage as well. Move on over here. We have the Elves of the Phallus, being commanded by Inarius. And I believe he's got 2 companies here of the Scouts of Eglarest, which are a high-tier medium cavalry. They're a melee cavalry for the Philathrum Elves. I can't quite remember what he's got here entirely, because a lot of his stuff is actually hiding, although some of it is out here. So we've got at least 1 unit of the Arankilim, which is the 1 hit point bodyguard for the Philathrum. They've got a 4 morale bonus into 30 meters around them, which is very, very nice indeed. Got Marksmen of Balar here, which are the high-tier heavy archer unit for the Philathrum. We've got some Marines of Eglarest, which are the Eglarest upper mid-tier unit in the Philathrum, and they've got spears and javelins that they can throw before they engage in melee combat. These guys are more skirmishers than anything else, so they do have the armor-piercing trait on their javelins. And then we've got, of course we do, the Mariners of Earendil, which are really strong, as we saw, medium-tier infantry unit. Also got Warriors of Eglarest here, mixed in with a phalanx of Nobles of Balar, which are a 2-handed spear unit for the Philathrum. Then we've got Warriors of Eglarest, another company of them here, Rangers of Brithambar, who are not Rangers. It is a deceptive name, but I think we've all been perhaps a little bit too comfortable with Rangers in the Reforged sense, and there is more to it. There are more meanings than simply body-piercing arrows. It's just units that spend a lot of time being out in the woods. So the Rangers of Brithambar are exactly that. They're just a regular line archer unit, but they are quite light. And then, I love this unit. This unit took me like a week and a half to get right, and they are the Erain Ephedun. And damn are they cool. Just a real big fan. They have that like crazy crown of wings and stuff. This is the personal bodyguard of Círdan himself. Círdan unfortunately couldn't join us today, as I haven't added his model to the mod, but they will be he will be in here eventually, and he'll be serving alongside his bodyguard. And I'm pretty sure he's got more like rangers and like marines and stuff at Brithambar, some mid-tier units and like mid-range units and stuff like that. But let's move on now to the second Philathrum army. This one being commanded by DT Justarius. He's got some Spear Host of Brithambar here, mixed in with his Nobles of Balar. It's a really strong, really survivable, at least in melee, front line. He's also got a bunch of Marines of Brithambar, 3 units of them there, 3 Rangers of Brithambar, 2 Marksmen of Balar, Arankiolim, got some Warriors of Eglarest, some Mariners of Earendil, the Erain Ephedun, right here. And he's also got an additional 2 units of Scouts of Eglarest to support him. And now the 4th and final member of the red team, we have the God of Realm of Doriath, being played by Steward of Dale. He's got a mounted company of Region. He's got Marksmen of Region, 2 units of them. Rangers of the Girdle, 2 units of the Rangers of the Girdle. And I think I have only talked about this on stream, so there's actually a lot of changes that have come to Doriath in this new patch. We have expanded their mid-tier roster mightily, and re-envisioned one of their mid-tier units, that being the Wardens of the Girdle, and we'll talk a little bit about them because they are actually in this army. So, Doriath has been pushed to be more of an aggressive faction, which is what I had originally envisioned them to be. Prior to this patch, they had so many high-tier units and not very many mid-tier units, which again was an intentional design choice, but the unfortunate side effect of that was that Doriath armies were quite small, and if you make the wrong move, you can get crushed, which led a lot of people to playing more conservatively and not playing them as the aggressive rush faction that they were intended to be. And so, the Rangers of the Girdle have been added to basically replace the long-range functionality of the Wardens of the Girdle. The Wardens of the Girdle maintain about 5 ammunition, and they still have their poison arrows, but they have been given a new stat template, so they are much more like infantry, and their stats have gone up, as have their damage. And they will shoot their shot, and then they will charge into melee to support the high-tier units. Now, rest assured, the mid-tier units do not supersede the high-tier units in their effectiveness in close-quarters combat. The high tiers are still your damage dealers. You will need to rely on them, it's just that now you have some more options to support them and to let them do their job, and to take hits for them as well, to allow your high tier units to survive into the mid and late game and help you pull out your wins. So they still very much rely on their high tiers, but the mid tiers are kind of just there to get in the way. And one of the new mid tiers is the Rangers of the Girdle. They are a detachment unit, and they are a shielded variant of the Wardens of the Girdle with only 1 axe instead of the 2 that unit now has. These guys have full ammunition, so they got 14 ammunition, which is standard for their tier, and poison arrows. And they also have a nice shiny shield value of 5, which helps them stay alive and continue to be a pest long after you would have expected them to die. So they're definitely a thorn in your side. This is currently the only dedicated skirmishing unit for Doriath. And you may be wondering, well, where does that leave Doriath? Good question. Let me show you. So, let's see if I can find them. Yes, the Wardens of the Girdle are right here. So these guys, two one-handed axes that they wield in close quarters combat, making them more of a berserker unit. Really good charge, really high damage, decent melee skill, but of course they are very lightly armored, and they don't have a shield. So their lack of defensive stats does hold them back somewhat and keep them in line and stop them from being better than the one-handed axemen. There's another unit here, which I think is out in the open, and that is the Axemen of the Girdle. These, as you may have already guessed by the fact that they have 4 axes in their hands, are a throwing axe unit. And throwing axes differentiate themselves from javelins a little bit by having higher base damage. They are not armor piercing, and their range is a little bit shorter, but having the extra punch, I think it's like a 30% difference in damage over javelins, but they do pay for it, of course, by having a little bit less range. They've got about a -20 range penalty over your average elven javelin. So there is a trade-off to be made there. And I think he's got 2 of them hanging around somewhere. We've also got the Kuthalim, who have gotten a little bit of a buff. They now have an Inspire effect of +2 and 25 meters, meaning that once they run out of ammunition, you can throw them into battle alongside the mid-tiers, and they will help keep them stable. And this is also where Thengol is going to be hanging out. You can see our Thengol model there, made by Sin of the Dark Cloud. It is lovely. And the Kuthalim, the things to know about them are that they cannot be stunned in melee combat. There are very few of them, but they can do a lot of damage. And they are the only armor-piercing archer in the game, making them a fantastic counter to units like the Roqueni Magloro across the field from them, for example. So I'm definitely going to have to do my best to try and stay out of the range of this potentially very difficult counter to my high-tier cavalry. Steward of Dale has also brought 3 units of Sword Host of Region and 3 units of Warriors of Region. Now, one of the important things coming to the Doriath roster, actually that's already in the game, is that their axe units, specifically their high-tier axe units, so the Warriors of Region that you see before you, as well as the Axe Guard, I believe, of Region, both upgrade their damage for a meager 5 florins. That's a nice little bonus of being Doriath and being the premier Sindar faction who specialize in axes. And it does help you save a little bit of money to spend on the new units, because I wanted to make sure that people were able to actually afford to bring them. And that was one of the ways that I helped Doriath players save a little bit of money. And then, of course, we've got another unit of Mounted Company of Region out here on the wing. So I got 2 melee cavalry for Doriath, 2 for the Phalathrim, and I think we've got 1 here for us. The Salamander Guard are like a melee cavalry hybrid, but I've only got 2 Mounted Company of Caligorm who are weak to cavalry. My only real counter to other cavalrymen, specifically people mounted on horses, is the Roquendi Maglaro, and they will certainly be overwhelmed by that many units. So, that was a big, long introduction. I guess it's a little bit useless to say it now, but I will be putting timestamps in the description and in the comments, as I usually do. So be sure to take a look there, and if you want to skip through stuff, just feel free to go ahead. But in any case, let's jump into the replay. Hope you enjoy. And so the opening plays here, we weren't really in voice, but we were kind of trying to be as active and communicative as possible with each other, was that we wanted to waste some of the ammunition. I noticed that Stuart had brought a ton of the mid-tiers, which against my particular build is kind of going to struggle. I've got some really nasty high-tier units here, and as I said, you can't rely exclusively on the mid-tiers to get the damage done. That is going to come down to the fairly limited core of high-tier units that he has available to him. That being said, he's not completely helpless. He's got a lot of marksmen who are decent swordsmen. They're going to run out of ammunition pretty quickly with their silver thorns. They're not exactly suited for just being a skirmisher. They're really more of an anti-rush tool. So I think he was expecting me to maybe rush him. He's also got a decent amount of like high tier units here as well. So the axemen, the heavy axemen, the two-handers, they'll be pretty deadly to my swordsmen. So I definitely want to stay away from them. But most of his build here is just chaff for my defenders of Agalon to hack their way through. So that'll be an interesting fight. But yeah, we're trying to waste some of the ammunition here. So we've got the Salamandrian Guard coming forward. Tyrus Fox is going to do his best to try and support me. I've got my 2 units of Riders of the Pass right here, pew-pewing with their with the Foot Archers of Doriath, just trying to eat up some of the ammunition. These guys are shielded after all, and they've got heavy armor values of 9. So they'll be able to soak up damage for basically ever and deal it in return with deadly accuracy. If we pop over to the other side, there's not a whole lot going on in the center, as all the big plays are going to happen on the wings, which seems to be the case every time I play on this map. We have the Green Elves squaring off against the Easterlings. So you can see some skirmishers here. These are the skirmishers of Rathloriel, the dual sword unit that I spoke about earlier, mixed in with Scouts of Gelion, and now the Spear Host and the Mythard have moved forward to support them closely in the event the Easterlings try and charge them down with cavalry. And he is currently firing into the Warband of Lothlan, who are quite lightly armored, but as you can imagine, with that big slab of steel that they have strapped to their arm, they have pretty decent shield values as well. And it's not going to be entire proof against the deadly accuracy of the Green Elves, although 9 shield value is going to go a long way. Let's go ahead, kick it in full speed for now. Eclipse is worth noting. I think this is like Eclipse's 2nd game on Silmarillion Total War. He seems to pick it up remarkably well. He's moving forward now with his reserve heavy infantry units, and he wants to get stuck in with the Green Elves, because I think he knows pretty damn well that the Green Elves do not do well in close combat, at least not before they've had a chance to whittle you down and bleed your strength with their missile units. And close support here, got some Bridge Wards of Nargothrond from Secretariat, a decent amount of units over here in the center, but he does have some supporting units on his wings, as that was his intention the entire time. You can see supporting units over here as well, Scouts of Talon and Falrath, Archers of Talathirna, and some Stalkers. I think I missed them earlier. Stalkers of Talon and Falrath are dual sword units with bonuses in the terrain that they're actually in, so forests and things like that. And there's the... Yes! There's that nasty morale sapping ability of the Salamandrian Guard. It seems to be really powerful at the moment, whereas like one hit will take units down to shaken. I'm kind of looking at that, but for the purposes of this battle, it's pretty damn strong. Yeah, see, even these guys just got hit by it once and it immediately dropped them down to shaken, which is very, very surprising indeed. But out here, I'm still just taking pot shots, just kind of moving in and out of the range of his foot archers, trying to waste some ammunition, trying to bob and weave a little bit. And I really want to go after this mounted company of Reikion unit, as it's the most obvious, I guess, target in terms of its threat level to me. I'm fairly confident in my infantry's ability to deal with most of the rest of his army, but we do need to kind of sweep some of their melee cavalry off the field, because as I mentioned, I only have one unit that can really effectively deal with them, in the sense that it's built for dealing with mounted enemies. Ooh, my poor Riders of the Pass here, just taking a real heavy beating. But this is kind of what they're here for, and the lower they get, the more the longer they'll be able to fire, essentially, as the ammunition pools for these kinds of units are static. Let's go ahead and turn it down just a little bit here. I've angled my 2 units such that I'm firing onto the unshielded, or at least I was onto the unshielded side of the Mounted Company of Region, just trying to keep Steward of Dale on his toes and to whittle down that melee cavalry as well as I am able. A little bit of movement in the center there, but I don't think the Scouts of Eglarest are really used for anything decisive, at least not right now. And over here, Ignatius has a couple units of these Scouts in behind enemy lines, and he's going to go after some of the Secretariat's units. Swordsmen of Talathirnin popping up out of nowhere. Scouts of Talwyn and Faroth taking a charge from behind, but they're going to whip out those 2-handed spears in close quarters. So the last thing that these Scouts want to do is stick around to have a chat, because out come those spears and down go the cavalry. And then the Swordsmen of Talathirnin right here, unfortunately, weren't on fire at will. Normally it's a good idea to turn that off. Oh, let's see if they get a volley off. Oh, Marksmen of Nargothrond. You can see the greater spread on these units now. Crashing into the back of them, surprisingly not killing any of them. At least not very many of them. A few die there, but now they're going to be free to attack the rear of the Easterlings, and they're of course going to go after the Eastron Marauders, who are wretched. They are terrible in melee, and they'll get eaten alive by cavalry like this. No problem whatsoever. On the front lines here, it's interesting. The Green Elves actually don't have a ton of really good frontline infantry, at least not in this particular matchup. They can mass infantry and I think go toe-to-toe with factions like the Easterlings, but this is not a build in which they are particularly suited to fighting these heavily armed and quite quality-heavy Eastern warriors in this build. And skirmishers here have run into a brick wall. They've done really well against the Warband of Lothland, as you would expect. But when they run into the Halberdiers, that's when things are going to get really messy for them. Out here on the wings, the Green Elf Cavalry is getting made a mockery of. This is one of the few times I think a lot of people are used to playing the Easterlings, or playing against them, so people are still trying to get used to things. So I talked to Artorias after the battle, and he was a little bit surprised at being out-skirmished and like out-calved, essentially, by the Elves of Assyrian, who hitherto did very, very well in a cav fight because of their outriders at Dwylwyn and their really strong horse archers as well. Coming on the back here. Oh, I see. That little green thing is because I think they got hit with some poison arrows or something that drops their morale down. Eastron Marauders here got caught by the Orphan tower, but they weren't able to lock down all the units, and so the other Eastron Marauder unit is going to toss some javelins in there. But there is some counterplay here. Hunters of Rath L'Oriel and a second company of Hunters of Rath L'Oriel have popped up, and they are going after the Eastron Marauders, who are really the only target that they can go after right now. Everyone else is pretty well engaged with the Green Elf infantry. There's not a lot of very suitable firing angles. Outriders of Dwylwyn rallying here with a second unit, about 40 or so of them, almost 50 of them still remaining, and that's potentially a very big threat. If they manage to get in there amongst the Eastron Horsemen, they will massacre them. That is an easy fight, very heavily in favor of the Outriders of Dwylwyn, and they are fast enough to catch them in addition to Scouts of Gelion here, Skirmishers of Rath L'Oriel doing their best, Orphan and Tower here, pushing up the center with some Skirmishers of Rath L'Oriel, wiping out a unit of the Warband of is it the Warband? Warband of Lothland. And then over here, the tide in certain areas is starting to turn in favor of the Green Elves, as they manage to shut down some of the important skirmishing units for the Easterlings. But over here, where the Boar's Bodyguard is present, they are crushing the Mythern and Tolgalen. And over here in the center, pegged from the rear by the Eastron, not the Eastron Marauders, Eastron Marauders and the Salamandrine Guard firing into these units. They are not long for this world. Scouts of Eglarest from the Phalathrim doing their best here, engaging the Salamandrine Guard. Well, with the numbers, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think the Salamander Guard will certainly come out victorious here, but they will certainly take casualties. And there's some Phalathrim infantry in close attendance. The Rankir Lim butting heads with the Clan Guard of Lothland. A second unit of Rankir Lim here engaging the Easterling infantry. Some supporting fire coming in from wherever those marksmen of Nargothrond are. Poison arrows coming in as well. Just chaos. Complete and utter chaos under the boughs of this forest. Damn fine. In the center, not much is happening as the decisive action is taking place out on the wings. Still on my side, all quiet on the eastern front as we continue to skirmish and continue to try and use up the resources of our enemies. A lot of my dead cavalry here on the field, but And I called this in game because the Green Elves are actually struggling quite a lot over here, at least out in the field. You can see the Easterlings really getting the best of them in a lot of places, except here where these kind of trash units are. But eventually the Easterlings will begin to pull things back. You can already see some Wardens of Lothline here have managed to skirt behind the Orphan and Tower, and these units are going to be able to sandwich them and deal heavy damage to those nobles. But the really decisive part of it is over here in the center. You know, it's trying to outflank with the Orphan and Tower, but there's a lot of halberds here, and the Orphan and Tower don't really have an answer to the range of the halberds in melee, so eventually they will lose out to them. Ooh, and the Salamander Guard now opening up on the Randirum. This is the only ranger unit actually in the game. There's a lot of heavily armored units here, so these guys might not exactly be as devastating as they might otherwise be against certain other Easterling units, because there's just so many of the Lothline units on Eclipse's front line. But as I was saying, because the Green Elves were really struggling over there, I figured that these guys would come to us, and indeed they are. And you can see Doriath now surging forward. We've managed to use up a decent amount of their long-tier ammunition, or long-range ammunition. Cuthalim here beelining towards, you guessed it, my Roqueni Magloro. They want to get a real good piece of them. And now I'm really just waiting for these guys to get a little bit closer, as I have a lot of units who can deal a lot of damage to the advancing ranks of the Doriath light and unshielded units. Mounted Company here, they want to get a piece of my Mounted Company of Caligorm. I'm going to move to engage with my Knights. The positioning is actually going to expose me to the Cuthalim. You can see them getting the pew-pew in my direction. But I'm going to turn around my Mounted Company of Caligorm and go for a rear charge here against the Doriath Cavalry, and that is going to sting. Some of my horsemen dying, their horsemen dying in turn as my Knights hack them to bits. We've got some Wardens of the Girdle here, easy prey, as they don't have a ton of melee defense, and this is where I activate my second line. So, Defenders of Aglon, beelining right for those light units. Oh, that's going to be real ugly indeed. As these Doriath Axemen begin to move forward, they're going to do so under the protective canopy, I suppose, of a volley of javelins from the Spear Host. But I'm going to do the same thing to these Warriors of Region. I want to hit them with everything I got. Close quarters volley there. Going to fell many of them. And they have lost about a sixth or so of their unit there already. And this hasty approach, unfortunately, is going to see Steward of Dale blobbing up a lot. And that's just going to be fantastic news for me. So, Otor and Mighty Mo being flung onto the front lines to fight alongside the Edine Spears to hold the line. But nonetheless, I have a very cheap front line, as I said, and the Doriath units will scythe through it without support. But I've got lots and lots of numbers, which is going to give me plenty of time to get work done with my important units, such as the Accursed of Alcolonde. And now this is where my cavalry advantage comes into play in a huge, huge way. I've got some Cuthalim here, and I think they're going after my Roqueni Magloro. Indeed, they should be. But I know that the Rangers of the Girdle are extremely weak, so I'm just going to get in there and smash them to bits with my Knights. And that unit is going to get absolutely dumpstered. Oh, and there goes the Green Elf General. Bad news bears for the Green Elves. We're going to pop over there in just a second. But I'm going to follow through by pulling my way through these units, trying to get away from the Cuthalim, disrupt them a little bit, but I'm also going to hit these units here. They were facing the other direction, but the Steward of Dale very wisely turned them around, and my Mounted Company of Caligorm are actually going to take a fair amount of damage in that fight. Meanwhile, the Philatharim have moved to engage my Easterling ally, and it looks even for now, but the Philatharim definitely have the advantage here, as they have a lot of really heavy melee defense units, which are going to be difficult for the lower attack values of the non-halberd Lothline units to overcome. Over here on the Green Elf Easterling fight, the Green Elves are getting beaten down hard. Yep, the Orphan and Tower being defeated by a combination of spears and halberds. Artorias trying to outflank them with skirmishers of Rath L'Oreal. A good decision. But there are also some Salamander Guard in the area, but not quite half the unit. And they're firing into the rear of these skirmishers as well. More and more skirmishers moving in under reasonably heavy fire. More Salamandrine Guard lurking in the area. along with some fairly depleted but still quite healthy units of the Eastern Horsemen, and another unit of Salamandering Guard in addition to. Wow, a lot of Salamandering Guard here. Over on this side, the Green Elves are crushing the Easterlings, this very small isolated pocket of resistance, but it's taken a lot of their troops out of the fight here, and they are losing in all the areas where it matters. The Rendirmen Tol Galen fighting alongside the Orphan and Tower, trying to overcome some of the Boar's bodyguard, and so far they're doing a decent job, down to 20, but Easterlings reinforcements moving into the fray. Some really healthy units here who are fresh off of some victories against Green Elf troops, and they're going to begin to cycle in waves, and this is where the Green Elves are going to find themselves overcome, despite Artorias' best efforts. There's a nice flanking attack here, more skirmishers of Rathloriel, Hunters of Rathloriel, trying to shut down the scouts of Tauren and Falroth. That's kind of a wet noodle fight there, two spear units fighting each other. But of course, the Finarfin infantry is being supported by the Salamandering Guard, who are relentlessly pummeling the flank and rear of the Green Elf units. What we got over here? Looks like the Marksmen of Nargothrond beating back the Scouts of Eglarest. I think there's still some Green Elf units firing in there in support. I could be wrong. Nope, that would be the Balar Marksmen, in fact. And they're being disrupted by the Salamandering Guard and some of the Eastron Horsemen as well, just making a nuisance of themselves. Nonetheless, the Marksmen of Balar seem unfazed by that, and they continue to fire in. And down here in the woods, the Elves of the Phallus are beating back the Easterlings. These things are suffering a very heavy defeat in here. I managed to get in with my cavalry for a little bit and probably deal about 100 or so casualties to them, but it just wasn't enough to stem the tide. Now the Mariners of Earendil have moved to the front lines, and the Easterling units are finding themselves overwhelmed by the quality of these Elven units. The Arankir Lim having lost about half the unit, nonetheless, they will take that fight. Erain Fedun backed up by a ton of Marines of Eglarest and some other upper mid-tier units here. There's a very strong Philothrum presence in these woods, and there's only more to come. Got some Nobles of Balar here, some Rangers of Berthambar offering range support, and more nobles entering the woods, being pulled out of this stalemate in the center. And yet there still remains some reserves, Warriors of Eglarest, some of the best mid-tier units that the Philothrum have to offer, staring down what still remains in here of the Finarfin army. And there's a much, much stronger, you can already tell at a glance, a much stronger Finarfin presence in the woods here. So that we have still quite a lot of reserves on our side. But the Philothrum over here doing very well for themselves. The second line of the Marauders of Himring have engaged, alongside the heavier Lothline units, but nonetheless, the Philothrum are smashing, ripping, and tearing through the Easterling lines, and they will continue to do so until it is done. However, Doriath not having a great time. Tundra's Fox has pulled out some of his Ravagers of Himring to assist me, and they're going to shred their way through the Spearhouse of the Girdle. And I've managed to get some decent rear charges into the Doriath infantry, and we've worn them down to the point where we are overwhelming them with our mid-tiers alone. And I believe this is indeed where my Accursed of Alcolon they are, and they have slaughtered many a Sindar elf, many of the Teleran descendants. They're just getting more practice for them. This is just a warm-up for a unit such as this, and Doriath is beginning to break here. And a lot of this comes down to the way that they approached this fight. If they didn't blob up, this would have been a good deal more even, but I think the Steward saw how heavily they were losing over there and just wanted to kick into action as quickly as he could. You can see my cavalry is very much reduced, but still able to be effective if they manage to get good opportunistic rear charges. Looks like we got some units here who have rallied alongside their lord in the Kuthalim, and some more warriors of Eregion are looking to rejoin the fight, along with some reinforcements in the form of the Marksmen of Nargothrond. Now this is like a Last Samurai kind of deal, like one final push as they move into the center and try to maybe break this big blob of Edain and try and separate my armies and make me fight on two different fronts. But I think that they know that this is more or less a foregone conclusion. Axemen of the Girdle trying to get a shot here off here into my Riders of the Pass. I'm just going to throw them in there to try and disrupt them. And they're going to do a decent enough job at it. Followed up with some attacks from my Knights, who are running down some Sword Host of Region. We got the Spear Host here, who are still locked in mortal combat with the Ravagers of Himring. But so far on this side, things are going great for us. And in the center, of course, we still have that stalemate, but let's pass once more over this Philothrim Easterling fight. And the Philothrim, as you can see, have actually managed to kind of overlap the Easterling lines. Now, where the Chieftain's Vanguard are present, they're doing quite well, but there's a ton of units here, and they are winning on the Easterling left flank, and the Easterlings in the center are starting to thin out a lot. And the Philothrim, well, not so much. I think there's some nasty reinforcements in there. Yes, indeed. We have the Lim, and there's still reserves. This is a big, healthy Philothrim army, and they are just brutalizing my poor Easterling ally, Tundra's Fox. He will not be able to hold on for too much longer without support. Over here in the center, looks like we have some marksmen of Nargothrond from Secretariat, and there's a fight going down in the woods. Wow, this extends all the way into the woods, and they are just peppering down the rear of the Philothrim, and this is really what the Philothrim don't want to have happen to them. They are not very resistant to missile play when you can get units behind them to ignore the shield value on some of these units. And I got some more Easterlings here, some Eastron Marauders who look like they still have ammunition. And if they toss into the back of these Eglarest units, that is going to be all she wrote. That'll swing the balance of power in that fight mightily, mightily in favor of the blue team. And now we have the reserves here being mobilized. 2 warriors of Eglarest, who are not going to let Secretariat have it all his own way. There goes Stewart's General. That is pretty well going to be the death knell for the Doriath army. And we got some more reserves here being thrown onto the other side. Some Foresters of Brithambar who are going to get a bonus in the woods over here. More and more Philothrim cycling into the woods and again overwhelming the Easterlings. So far, our 2 Philothrim Easterling fights have been mightily in favor of the Philothrim, although to be fair, the Easterlings are having to fight on 2 different fronts here. Eclipse of the Dark Cloud rushing in some much needed halberd reinforcements. A whole bunch of halberds here, and some other victorious units as they try to wipe out what remains probably of the 2-handed axe units, I would say, because they are unbreakable. I'd say they're in there somewhere, but now these things will be able to shuffle all their reinforcements back over there to try and deal with the Philothrim in the woods. Out here in the plains, the Salamandrine Guard are being bullied by the Yarain Efedun. The Salamandrine Guard don't really have an answer to a unit like this, and the Eastron Horsemen especially do not. So the bodyguard for Ignatius is out here, making sure that cavalry stays gone and out of the fight. Over here, this is really not what you'd want to see if you were the Easterling player, is it? Some very outnumbered Clan Guard of Lothland, hard-pressed by marksmen of Balar, who have joined the fray. And they're going to be fighting alongside some of the nobles of Balar as well. In the chevron formation, they are well poised for a double envelopment, which is going to completely eradicate this Easterling infantry unit. Now we're going to pass on over to the other side. As we can see, the balance has shifted. The Green Elves were previously losing that fight, and now with the aid of the Philothrim, they are winning it heavily. But Doriath is destroyed. You can see some fairly fresh reinforcements coming out of the woods here from Secretariat. Another 2, 3, like 5 units coming out here. And now the Philothrim of Justarius are in trouble. They were winning this fight hard, but unfortunately Doriath collapsed under the weight of my army and the support that my ally Tundra's Fox was able to send me. And so, I am assembling my troops, cleaning up what's left of Doriath wherever I can. What do you know, the Sons of Wolfang are over here as well. No wonder the Easterlings are struggling. Some of their best units came over to help me. You can see Stewart of Dale's army, what remains of it, in full retreat. And now we are moving to assist Tundra's Fox's Easterling army before it breaks. And we are going to attack from 2 fronts simultaneously. Basically, Secretariat is here to stiffen the center, and the remaining Easterling units, as well as my victorious Feanor army, are going to come in from behind and crush the Philothrim between the hammer and the anvil. I've got my cavalry over here, the Roqueni Magloro, doing their best, although they are very heavily reduced down to about 6 or so men. The Lim are just dumpstering everything that comes their way. Some flanking Easterling units here being outflanked in turn by the Arain Efedun and massacred in close quarters by the Lim. Despite the fact that they are surrounded, they are holding on like the heroes they are. Ravagers of Himring, however, are going to have way more success against the light mid-tiers of the Phallus. And I think these are Rangers of Brathambar. Yeah, this is just the archer unit. They're not going to do great, although this poor guy getting skewered by that ranger, falling dead at the feet of that vengeful Phallus elf.
Only half the enemy force remains.
We're going to go ahead, kick it into full speed here, and take a look at some of the fights that are going on out here in the woods. Now, Rangers of Brathambar have been pulled out of the woods here in order to sandwich the archers of Talathirnan, and they are getting slaughtered. They're getting absolutely blendered by this mix of foresters, Eglarest warriors, and the Rangers of Brathambar out of the woods there. Over here, the Phallus are also doing very well. I've sent in my cavalry to attack the rear of the Marksmen of Balar, and they are doing their best, but a lot of these Easterling units are really, really struggling. And the Swordsman of Talathirnan has been brought in by Secretariat to stabilize this situation as well. Thank God for reserves, because otherwise the Phallus would be slaughtering us here, and they would be able to move in, to outflank Tartarus Fox's units in turn, and maybe even save this army. Ooh, those much-needed reinforcements charging in against the Phallus, who find themselves assailed on all sides. But they are brave, and in the presence of their lord, they will not break for almost anything. The Arankir Lim give 6 morale in 75 meters. They are an extremely powerful support unit, and they're going to keep the Phallus fighting on, even in the face of very, very unfavorable odds. The reinforcements pouring in, doing their best, but slowly but surely. Pardon me. The Elves of the Phallus are being surrounded and beaten down, but they won't go down without a fight. Oh no. Phallus Elves still winning that minor skirmish there in the center. And now over here, the Easterlings have been all but destroyed. The Arain Efedun getting a nice piece of the Salamandrine Guard. There goes, I think that's the Phallus General for Justarius. So we're probably going to see those units rout, and I don't want to miss that, so we're going to turn it down a little bit here. With Salamandrine Guard basically going for glory, but getting massacred by the Arain Efedun and the Marines of Eglarest, who are in close attendance. Nobles of Balar here, and the remaining Phallus under Inarius are going to begin to surround what remains of the Easterlings and pound them into the dirt. There's still minor elements of Artorius' army still remaining, but he really took the brunt of it against the Easterlings. You got to hand it to Eclipse. For his second game, he took on a really veteran player and did extremely well for himself. So the Elves of Assyrian are basically just a few scattered grains before the wind of Eclipse's Easterling army, but with the Phallus being added in there, it was just too much for them. Nobles of Balar over here, looks like they were hunting down a unit, but this Easterling army is basically completely gone. Yep, pretty well completely gone. A lot of these units are breaking and fighting to the death. That Warband unit is now breaking. Salamandrine Guard getting a beautiful rear charge here. Few units still remain to them, only about, I think there's 2 units here of about 7 in total. Getting a nice charge into the rear of the Marksmen of Balar, trying to thin out the numbers as best as they are able. But still the Phallus on this end are victorious. So each of us have won a fight on the wing, and now it's going to be time to converge upon each other. And you can see our victorious units coming out of the woods. We managed to break a large contingent of the Phallus. You can see Arquenium Magilua charging through there, and I've also sent my Accursed of Alcolonde. With their fear effect, they were able to help turn the tide against the Phallus. And now we're hungry. We want a piece of these warriors of Eglarest, absolutely. And I think this is pretty well the end for the Phallus army. You can still see some small pockets of surrounded, outnumbered resistance, but they will be extinguished soon enough. But it was bloody. It was very bloody out here. I lost most of my cavalry. I lost a good deal of my light infantry as well. But so far my strategy has actually paid off. I had my chaff and my holding units on my front lines, and then I had my second line of highly damaging infantry, and we're able to use up a lot of their ammunition before we engaged, which prevented them from countering my unshielded heavy units, which would have been bad for me, as that's really the teeth of my army. The Accursed of Alcolonde charging into battle alongside the Elves of Finarfin. And these warriors of Eglarest and Foresters are not having a good time. The Philothrum, as I said, are brave and well led. But this is bad for them. The accursed Kinslayers have come for them along with a host of elves from Nargoth Rons and have assailed them in the rear. And these guys are going to start to break under this pressure in just a matter of moments. Arqueni Mort Megillua now coming in from the rear. And now important elements of Inarius' army are being picked apart. He had a big army left, and he still has a decent amount left. But this is like 4 units here out of his army, and 2 of them are really important damaging units, and they're already beginning to break under the pressure. A lot of fear and a lot of being attacked from behind and losing combat very quickly, and that is going to cause a chain reaction here that is going to percolate all the way up the line, and now most of those units are going to begin to flee, and there's only just a small pocket of Warriors of Eglarest who still remain. That sucks. That's a big loss in manpower for Inarius. A lot of manpower that he couldn't afford to lose. Our armies are fairly ragged. The Easterlings really took a beating against the Philothrum army of Justarius. Secretariats does have a decent amount of reserves, but a lot of my units are fairly battered. The Defenders of Aglon here down to half strength. There's a few more companies and such filtering through the woods here. One thing I do have going for me is that my Otor and my Timo are doing very well for themselves, but a lot of my light units are shredded. My cavalry is nearly gone, and my elite swordsmen are probably at about half strength for each of the units. Now this, I saw an opportunity here, and I really had to go for it. It looks like the Warriors of Eglarest here are going to come back from routing. But Justarius has a small unit here of Mariners of Earendil, and they have rallied, and they're going to beeline right for the Accursed of Alcolonde. We're going to have a duel here between 2 legendary companies. Ooh, and you can see some of my Kinslayers going down. But the high damage and the high charge damage of the Accursed of Alcolonde is going to make them way more suited for this engagement than the Mariners of Earendil. And they're going to take about half of their company in damage and begin to flee from the field. And I lost, I think, about 6 or 7 of my elves in exchange there. Warriors of Eglarest probably should have been pulled back and attempted to reunite with the rest of the Philothrum. You can see coming over the hill there. Nice rear charge into the Archers of Talathirnin. Probably not worth it, though, as my Kinslayer is going to charge in, hungry for Teleri blood. And that's going to be the end of those Warriors of Eglarest as well. Although they are going to lose a couple men off that charge. You can really see the difference that the lack of melee defense makes for this unit. So it's not necessarily an absolute must-have for the Feanor roster, but it certainly is nice to have in builds like what I'm going for. Now, Inarius' roster. Now, imagine this augmented by another 4 or 5 units of infantry, plus the Mariners of Earendil that Justarius threw against my army without hope. This would have been like very different here. And the Elves of Osiliand as well, moving forward. What remains of them, the Effenan Tower, and the Skirmishers of Rath L'Oreal probably should have stayed with the Philothrum army, or the Philothrum army should have moved with them. But they are actually still marshalling what remains of their troops. They're still trying to get some people out of the woods here. So I think if everyone had kind of like rallied together, they would be able to kind of match our army a little bit better. But as it is, we managed to come out of our scrap on our wing. This would be our left wing, way better than they came out of their fight over on the right. Now they do have a heavy amount of troops left, but we ended up being able to bleed off a lot of their important strength. Like I said, like 4 or 5 units over here were engaged with just 1 unit of archers, or like 1 or 2 like small depleted units, and they should have been pulled back as soon as the fight on the red team's right wing started to go south. Rangers of Brathambar being pushed back. The Green Elves basically going for glory here, charging headlong into the Nargothrond army.
The enemy army flees the field. Pursue and run them down.
And over here, Secretariat's army just kind of setting itself up, and we're getting ready to advance together as a unit. And everything that I got left of my light infantry is going to go up here into the scrub terrain, as the Shield Bearers of Halivorn definitely do get a bonus here, and I think maybe my Stalkers do. I'm going to send my Defenders of Aglon on a flanking mission here. And I think I've got my Accursed of Alcolonde moving on the other wing as well, looking to get a piece of the Teleri here. They just want death and glory. And they are certainly going to get it as the Marines of Eglarest come into view. The Accursed of Alcolonde, they want it. They are hungry for it. But that is a spear unit, and unfortunately they turn off at the last second here to engage the forces of Secretariat, who have gone straight over the hill and taken the position before the Philothrum can get up there. And now these spear units are going to get attacked in the rear by some real scary units. I got Defenders of Aglon coming over here in force, a still very large, healthy unit of them. And I've got some Accursed of Alcolonde in here as well, and they're going to be augmented by my Shield Bearers of Hellevorn. We're going to have a couple extra points of damage for fighting on this scrub terrain. And the Philothrum of Inarius really struggling here. Although, that being said, they have a very strong presence of heavy Balar units over here that are actually turning the tide against Secretariat's army. They've managed to establish local superiority here, and they are leveraging that mightily. Although, more reinforcements come in as we move to completely surround them on this hill. There's not really a whole lot that they can do about it. A couple other units over here. A very large amount of Nargothrond infantry moving for this surround. And they're going to surround the Philothrum in turn. And the Nargothrond units are really having a bad time here. You can see them surrounded on basically 3 sides. And there goes the Philothrum general, sniped out by somebody's Salamandering guard. And this is where the Philothrum begin to lose hope. A lot of their units are quite susceptible to morale shocks, actually. You know, that's probably not too true in the sense that they have a lot more mid-tier units. So their morale is a little bit lower on a lot of them, but yeah, losing their lord like this, it really, really is tough for them. Got some Mariners of Earendil fighting to the last alongside the Aran Kirlim, the Aran Efedun. Some really nasty units here. But they're getting tired, they're outnumbered. Got some routing units here. Yeah, this is all of the necessary ingredients for a mass rout. And we're going to start to see that here. As with the loss of their general, being surrounded, being tired, losing the fight, and being horribly outnumbered, this big pocket of Philothrum, even the Arain Efedun, are going to break and flee. And the victorious armies of the blue team are going to take this hill, and they're going to take the battle as well. Some parting pot shots here from the Marksmen of Nargothrond, who somehow managed to have ammunition at the end of all of this. And that's going to be the end of it right there. Not a super close game, but it does get all the new factions into a game together. It gets all of the legendary companies, and we got to see a duel between the Mariners of Earendil and the Accursed of Alcolonde, which was just damn cool. And I could not show you that, let's be honest. But let's take a look at the kill counts here. I did reasonably well fighting against Doriath. I got a lot of kills, but then there was also a lot of mid-tiers in their armies. That's kind of to be expected. Eclipse did extremely well against the Elves of Osirian, and it is rightly deserved that he finds himself at the top of like the kill list here, because he really took it to the Elves of Osirian. And Alex is a really good player, and he's really experienced with the Elves of Osirian in particular. So like that was just well done to him. That's his second game. He's obviously like getting a hang of this really, really quickly. Artorias, that being said, didn't go down without a fight, and him and his ally ended up managing to push Eclipse back and utterly annihilate him. Inarius did fairly well. Justerius hacked his way through nearly 2,000 of the Easterlings, netting him a much-deserved spot at the top overall kills in the game. And the Steward of Dale really did struggle against that army. A lot of that came down to, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of blobby approach that he did when he rushed. If he didn't do that and had spread out more, he would have gotten way more effectiveness out of those units. So that's a little bit of a mistake there. And, of course, I had a really good army for fighting his. He had a lot of mid-tiers, and he had a lot of, like, there was just a lot of units in his army that were pretty easy prey for my Aglon defenders. The Sword Host, for example, get really, really badly mauled by my defenders. I managed to pepper down a lot of his counters to the strengths of my army with my javelins, as we saw there. We killed like 20 of them in 20 of the axemen in very quick succession. And we were able to use up a lot of his ammunition as well. So by the time that his units got over to my side, a lot of their long-range ammunition had been taken care of. My cavalry was able to continuously cycle charge the rear of his units as we had defeated their cavalry a little bit earlier on in the battle. So it was just a tough situation for Steward of Dale to be in, and he kind of got counter-comped there just a little bit. Let's take a look now at the casualties inflicted. The Accursed of Alcolande, 161 kills. I'm not dissatisfied with that at all. That was really, really good. One of my other defenders got 171. The other one came in a very, very distant third with 98. Shieldbearers of Hellevorn, surprisingly enough, did okay against what they were having to fight. It certainly helps that I had a lot of support from my ally. For example, Turtles Fox sent me a lot of his really good units. We saw his Sons of Ulfang bodyguard in there. And I've also got my Mounted Company of Kelligorm. The one that I sent over to the aid of my allies did very, very poorly. Actually got less kills than I thought it did. My Riders of the Past did alright. Not a lot of skirmishing. Well, there was a lot of skirmishing in the early game, but I did get a lot of kills. Mostly they were there to just kind of eat up ammunition, as I mentioned a few times now. But my one Riders of the Past unit did manage to survive into like the late game. And they were engaged in some rear charging, so they managed to get about 87 kills there. And then the Roqueni Magloro, 25 men getting 188 kills. Managed to use them really, really well, which is nice. But unfortunately, I can't show you the rest of the breakdown for my allies, as Medieval 2 is stupid that way. So my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope you're excited for the Legendary Company system. For me, it's a really fun creative outlet, because it's like so many crazy possibilities. We've got all of these like really tightly focused rosters, and we've like refined the gameplay for a lot of them. Now for the ones that like we have a lot of experience with, although with the exception of the Philothrum, because they're still pretty new, but like I needed to make that unit. I just had to. Inspiration strikes, and you're like, yes! But now that we have a lot of units that have like a very clearly defined playstyle, tight rosters, and we've had a lot of chance to play with them, I can start to add little cool details like this, and it's a fun creative outlet for me. And you guys, of course, get some really cool and unique looking models and some badass units to play with in the mod. Currently, this patch is not available. I did recently update our ModDB with a full install of the old version plus the new tournament updates that fix things like crashes. They tweak some unit stats and get like everything into a fairly good place competitively, so that if you want to jump into multiplayer, you're going to have a pretty good experience. We had a lot of people play on the tournament on this build, and it seemed to go pretty well. But this patch will be available eventually for people once we've had a chance to refine things, because we do have a very high commitment to quality. Like we like to make units out of quality materials. The people that are working for us right now as like model makers and like texture artists and stuff, they're all fantastic at what they do, and you're going to see some really cool previews coming up really, really soon. Largely for the House of Fingolfin, and of course for their legendary companies. So if you guys like the system and you're excited about the mod, let me know down in the comments section. And hell, add me on Steam. We'll play. If people out there want to do the whole tester thing, I am absolutely open to that. I will ask you questions, and I will expect a certain amount of commitment from our testers, but by and large, I am open to giving the role to just about anybody, assuming that they are going to be a good fit. But that's it for me. Hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and I'll see you guys next time.